and I think I'm going to go ahead and start if that's okay with you guys. Number one, I've imported my Google Slides presentation and I changed it into a PowerPoint presentation and then imported it in here. And that's the reason why it looks kind of insane here without, you can't see all of my different languages on the left-hand side. So it looks a little bit rough. Hopefully you guys don't mind that. The real presentation, I provided it in the chat here, and I will do that again at the end unless you need it right now, and I'm more than happy to share that again. I'm also sharing, I have a playlist of Minecraft videos specifically of anything that I worked on in Minecraft. I created a lesson plan for it, and then I created a video that is usually a screencast, so you can see my world or the world that the students were going to play in. And then I explained kind of what the outcome was supposed to be, and then of course I explained the lesson, and I provide the lesson there too for anybody that wants to use them. I'm also providing another link that has all of the lesson plans. It's like, I don't know how many pages, almost 100 pages of just the different ideas that I've actually used in class, what we were talking about, even links to the vocab that I was focusing on, the phrases or whatever we were actually trying to do in class. You have it all. So you have access to all of those things. I provide those to anybody that wants to use them or tweak them and do those kinds of things. So I will make sure that I provide those again at the end. Make sure that you guys remind me again at the end, and I'll provide those links, and then we'll go from there. Let me switch over to the next slide here. Let's see if it looks any better. Not that much better. Anyway, let me introduce myself. I'm Glenn Irvin. You probably saw in the description, I am a Spanish teacher, maestro de español, and then I'm also a tech integrationist here for my school district. Hello to Jamestown High School. Is that Jamestown, North Dakota? Doubt it. No. My wife is from Jamestown, North Dakota. This is probably Jamestown on the East Coast. So I am a tech integrationist. So I work with other teachers in my school district basically to find ways to be able to integrate technology, there's my bell, integrate technology into their classrooms at a high level. I teach full-time and I do the tech integration job, and the way that I do that is I teach some courses also online. During the presentation, it's hard to see here, but my Twitter is at @IrvSpanish, IRV, and then the word Spanish all in one. Please feel free to ask me any questions. If you want to follow me, I will always follow back anybody that follows me because I feel I can learn from, oh, thank you very much for sharing that Twitter handle. I can learn as much from anybody out there that they learn from me. And I've actually had several teachers that I've never actually met in real life. I've only met them on Twitter and then through some Google Hangouts and some other things that we've actually collaborated on lessons for Minecraft. And then they've been able to use those lessons in their classrooms. And of course, then I benefit too because people have some amazing ideas. They're just maybe not sure how to go ahead and make it happen within the Minecraft world or whatever, the universe. So I love to collaborate with people, share ideas, answer questions. I'm not the know-it. I don't know everything. I like to, if I can answer any questions, of course I could get those to you, but I always try to phrase that to people that I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know everything. I'm still learning, and I want to continue to grow and learn too. So during the presentation, feel free. I think the best thing we can do is basically put it in the chat like you guys said, but after the presentation, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at @IrvSpanish, okay? I think I also share my email later on too. So it's hard to see this, but at my current school district, I've actually taught in all kinds of places. I've traveled. I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. My mom is Mexicana. She's from the small town of Nuevo Casas Grandes, Chihuahua. I grew up in Mexico. During the summers, I spent with my grandparents there, and then eventually that led to my love of the Spanish language and eventually to becoming a Spanish teacher. I taught and lived in California first, and then Colorado, and then 13 years ago now, I moved to a little town in Wabasha, Minnesota. It's along the Mississippi River, most famous for grumpy old men. And now I've been here at the school district for 13 years. And crazily enough, I got off. Oh, Luz, buenos días, Del Paso. That's where all my primos live. They still live there. Um, anyway, I just got offered another job, another position, still in Minnesota at a different school district. I'm going to be working in full-time tech, and I'm going to be actually moving to that school district within 3 weeks. So it's going to be insane. Very excited about that opportunity that came up. So this is La Familia, my family, and they are actually, especially those two boys there, I mean my wife, of course, too, but those two boys are my inspiration to wanting to go ahead and pursue this. They are the true experts. That's what I always tell people. My students and my own children are the true experts in the Minecraft world. Now I just had to find a way to connect that to la clase de español, to my Spanish class. So they are the true experts. They're the inspiration. The older guy there is 10 years old. His name is Lisandro. And the little guy, his name is Lynx, like the cats. And he is 5 years old and he's in kindergarten. And they love Minecraft. And truly, the older one helps me to develop a lot of the worlds to make sure that they actually work. And then number two, that they're actually fun. He tells me when things are, he's like, that's not a good idea, Dad. He calls me Pops. So he said, no, that's not a good idea, Pops. So I always show him and actually make him play the worlds, even though they're meant for second language learners. Of course, exposing him to the Spanish language is always great, but I also want him to say, hey, is this good or is it not good? And I'll talk more about that in just a bit too. So that's La Familia. I've always been interested in games. I play games all the time, and then I started hearing this term around that I adopted into my classroom called gamification, basically using game elements in your classroom. Before I even used Minecraft, I was using some gamification elements, and you may too already without even knowing it. Things like using, instead of points, we call it XP. We go on misiones versus talking about units of learning, and so on and so forth. We have some coaching, just the way that the class functions, so that the class seems more, for me, like it feels to them too, like more, it feels different and it feels entertaining, and it also feels like an adventure versus just the drudgery of coming in every single day. I'll go ahead and switch to my next slide here. I was inspired to use gamification and especially Minecraft by this guy right here. You should follow him on Twitter. His Twitter is @Haskell, and I'll put that down here at the bottom here. And Dr. Haskell is a professor at Boise State University, and he had this class, this graduate level class called Teaching and Learning in Virtual Worlds. And basically what we did is we, as graduate level students, we met inside of Minecraft. You can imagine that. And we were students in different content areas. So for example, a world that the content was in geometry or social studies, history or math, whatever it might be, science, a lot of science ones. So there was all these people, this was 4 years ago, that were already developing lessons inside of Minecraft, even before Minecraft EDU came out. So we were participants in there, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if they have anybody's doing Spanish lessons. So I started researching it, or any kind of language learning, world languages, and nobody was using it, at least not to something where I thought was effective, something that was I would be like, oh, I want to use that. So then I said, well, this is my opportunity to go ahead and start doing this, and everything that I've created from the beginning, which was 4 years ago, to now, I've made it public, because I was like, hey, everything I develop, I'm going to record a video for it on YouTube, post it there, and then also share my lesson plans with anybody that's interested in using them. So Dr. Haskell had us play, there was this world, and if you ever get an opportunity to go inside of it, it's called the World of Humanities. And this World of Humanities was basically created by a teacher, and then all of his students outside of school hours created this amazing world where you were exposed to basically all of history inside of Minecraft. So it was a role-playing game you played inside of Minecraft, and that was the most inspiring thing for me. I was like, if we could do that for Spanish class, man, wouldn't that be like exciting and fun? It was so much different than anything else. There's also a guy, his name is John Miller. He was a Teacher of the Year in California, and he uses it in English language arts as well as history, and he develops some of the most amazing lessons, super engaging, fun, but also fulfills specific outcomes as far as their lessons. And I was like, okay, I got to be able to do something like these gentlemen were doing. I'm looking at the chat here real quick. It says, at CU, Lang Tech offers a graduate class of gamification in a foreign language. That's fantastic. That's great to know. So I figured out really quickly that second language learning and Minecraft were a perfect match. And if you don't know much about Minecraft, one of the first things I could tell you about it is that you can make it anything you want it to be. And that's the reason why it's so attractive, and it continues to sell. It's one of the highest selling games ever, and it continues to sell at a high rate. And the reason why is because you can play it in so many different ways. And because you can play it in so many different ways, you can create lessons for it in so many different ways and so many different objects or objectives for it. So it was perfect for language learning, I found out, because I could change it and make it into whatever I wanted it to be. So usually I present in front of a bunch of people, so this is a little bit awkward, so please feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat, any types of questions. But when I go to conferences, I want to go and sit in a room for however long it is and get something out of it, something that I could be like, oh, I could actually do that. And even better, I could actually do that tomorrow. And those are, I think, are the most inspirational things as far as for presentations or any kind of conferences or anything that you go to for professional development. So I'm going to give you some things you can actually implement tomorrow without even knowing that much about Minecraft. If you could get the tech end of it going, you could implement some stuff tomorrow, and I'm going to show you some of those lessons. Then I'm going to show you some things, how to move from what I call gamification elements, so something more like project-based learning, gamification, something that you would do at the end of a unit, to something more where you would be using the game to actually learn. In this case, learn Espanol, to learn the Spanish language. And then I'm going to give you some advice on how to get started, and then answer, of course, any questions throughout. If that sounds good to you guys. I'll go ahead and skip to the next one. So the gamification lessons, as I just told you, they require little or no building up front. That's the most intimidating part for a teacher. As you see these structures here in this slide, I didn't create any of those things, if you can imagine that. Those were all created by students, either in class or outside of class. And that's what I tell a lot of people. You will be amazed by how many students will come in during their own time just to help you create the lesson so that you can present it in class, and they can have their own part in creating the world, the environments. These two environments, one of them is, they're actually two city type environments. At the top was La Ciudad that we were working on, and then on the bottom left is I think a store environment that we were working on too. There's a guy I would also highly recommend following, and I'm going to put him right here. He has a funny name on Twitter. It's @PBJellyGames. And Garrett Zimmer is his name. And Garrett is a expert in game-based learning. And one of the most awesome things about PBJellyGames, Garrett Zimmer, is that he works with teachers for free from anywhere. He just gets inspired by other people like yours. If I approached Garrett when I met him, I had some ideas on what to go ahead and do as far as my classes, and he helped me to make those ideas much more entertaining and fun and actually have game-based learning elements in it versus just kind of trying to layer things on top of lessons. I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next one. There we go. So one of the first things I tell people about is like, okay, so if you don't know anything about Minecraft, you can start off in something called a creative world. There's creative worlds or creative mode, and then there's a survival mode. So we have both of those types of modes that exist inside of Minecraft. So our creative mode, in this case, we have this thing called, this lesson was when I taught los números, just the numbers 0 through 9, right at the beginning, early as far as in la clase, and then some basic colors. Okay, so you were talking about like 10 or 15 colors that you were teaching as far as la clase de español. And then we did this activity where they did this first non-digitally. They did it on paper. and they developed basically a pixel art color by number activity. So you can kind of see in the background what's happening here. They went online and found some different pixel art. That's a very popular thing to do inside of Minecraft, is to create amazing things. Some of them simple, like this Angry Birds thing or Bart Simpson, and some of them more complicated, like those things in the background there. Hold on one sec. Sorry about that. People trying to reach me for tech things, sorry. So this color by number activity, super simple to develop, and I gave students a limited amount of time to go ahead and be able to create it. But what they did is they created on paper first, and then they created inside of Minecraft. And it's hard to see, but there's a little red and white block at the bottom of this base here, and it has a sign on it. And they go up to the sign and they can read in Espanol a color by number. So it has like cero means rojo, or uno is negro, dos es azul, or whatever it might be. And they have a chart. And so they go into the world and then they complete the color by number of their fellow students. So they have these number blocks, and then they complete it by actually putting a colored block on it, and then it creates the actual picture, and then they take a screenshot of it. So that's one of the first like easy, cheesy activities that you could do with números and colores. Could be used with elementary school students very easily. In this case, I used it with my Español Uno, and we took, the building of it and the creating of the thing was maybe 20-30 minutes. So the students actually know how to use the game with that much proficiency to be able to build these things. So we didn't spend too much time in the game, but it's something you could do at the end of something. Here. Bueno, and then one of the things that I really like to do is combine the elements of what we're working on in class with something that happens inside of Minecraft, and that they have to actually speak. So some sort of presentational speaking that is occurring, but in a type of screencast form, in a format, instead of presenting to the class. Before I move on, let me see. Would we need to create this in Minecraft ahead of time? Some of us here are not familiar with the inner workings of Minecraft, or do students create it? This one, this pixel art color by number, totally created by students. I gave them the ideas. We did it on actual grid paper. I mean, we did it like, you know, as far as on papel. And then they created them inside of Minecraft. They did all the stuff. All they did is press I turned on the server button, and I'll tell you about that in just a bit. It's basic, super easy. You don't need to know any technical stuff as far as Minecraft is concerned. It's super cool to learn how to do some stuff though too, and useful, especially with some of the other things that I'll show you in just a bit. So this lesson, it says, what's your city like? ¿Cómo es tu ciudad? So it was a project at the end of something that we were working on, a unit where students had to describe the positives and negatives of a city, and describe the city itself, las calles, las avenidas, the different buildings inside of a city, you know, the bad things about a city, the good things about a city. And eventually they wrote a paragraph, and I helped them with the templates. And they wrote this paragraph, but I didn't want them to just, you know, in the past, they would have got up in front of the class and they would have been presenting. They would have done a presentation to the class. And instead of that, I said, well, I'm going to give you a limited amount of time. And usually I give students a class period, which is about 50 minutes. And they created by themselves or with a friend, and they would create this like a little simulation of their world, the things that they were going to talk about. So if they said, oh, en Colorado hay o en la ciudad de Denver hay muchas montañas. In the city of Denver, there's a lot of mountains. Then they would create some mountains and put some things there. So they created those things, those objects, and then they did a screencast. And a screencast, basically like me recording the screen here. And then they would talk us through their city. So they would be like telling us, everybody started off with, you know, en Los Angeles hay muchas personas, or blah, 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 whatever it might be that they were talking about. And then they would show us that inside of a flyby through their world inside of Minecraft. And the results, this is one of my first lessons that I ever used, and I was like, I don't know how it's going to work out because I hadn't ever tried it before, and the results were fantastic. I have an example of a student one on my YouTube channel, and it's just crazy. It's awesome. It's fantastic. And the way that she did it, she asked me, so what if I don't follow my paragraph exactly and I just want to talk about the things that I'm looking? I'm like, that's even better. Es mejor. Let's go with that. And so it was just fantastic, the results. This was Español 2, so they're familiar a little bit more with vocab and specifically this topic. I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions here. Would we need to create, how do students access the same world? That's the awesome part about Minecraft, especially Minecraft, the Education Edition. The Minecraft Education Edition, a teacher turns on a server, and then it allows any students within their school that have the same domain name, basically the same email is a good way to think of it, that they can then, with accounts, they can enter into the same world and work together. And that is the most powerful part of this game. There's a lot of single-player games that are out there, but this, because the collaborative function is there, it's super powerful, super awesome. So Minecraft Education Edition allows for that with basically the press of a button. Honestly, once you set it up, it's super easy. What devices work best? Well, the negative part of the newest Minecraft Education Edition, basically the educational version of Minecraft, is that you're going to need you're going to need Windows 10 devices, or you're going to need the latest version of Mac, the OS that works with the MacBooks. Or I know a lot of teachers that use iPads, so they use the Pocket Edition version of Minecraft. The only limitation of the Pocket Edition version of Minecraft as far as worlds is that you can only have I think about 6 people can work together in a world. Still super powerful. The Minecraft Education Edition allows hundreds of students all at once. You can all be in the same world. How much does this cost? I have a slide about that, but I can get to that right away. Cost for Minecraft Education Edition, which is the newest version, is $5 per student per year. The way that my district works that out is we have a super small school district, so we just bought 30 licenses that we use for all my classes. So we pay $150 a year as far as that's our cost. And we bought the license instead of having the students buy them. You can, and I know a lot of school districts do this, the students actually purchase their own license and then they can use that license, for example, at their house. They can log into Minecraft Education Edition at their home, log in with their account, and then they can go in there. The way that I have it set up, I have it with dummy accounts, so just generic accounts that say Wabasha Kellogg 1 or whatever it might be. Can you use Chromebooks? No. So the unfortunate part is that it runs with Windows 10 or it runs with the latest version of Mac versions. Versions of Windows. I actually don't have Windows 10 on this machine, and it has Minecraft on it, but it's a different version of Minecraft because there's various different versions of Minecraft itself. None of those versions actually exist for Chromebooks yet, though I know that there is some sort of something working there. So for you guys that have the Chromebooks, that isn't possible just yet. So I apologize for them. Cool. So, actually, here, my next page was the example I was talking about. A student had created a ciudad, and they had a fly-through, and I have a link there to it. You can check it out on YouTube, and she describes la ciudad, and she just kind of randomly walks through her city. Most of the time that they spent in this world that they created was even done outside of class. They did it either during their study hall periods, at lunch, or most of them just come after school for an hour. I usually am here for an hour after school, and they work on their worlds and make it really awesome for themselves. So they're super passionate about their stuff there. So most of the time they work outside of the classroom because I give them a very limited amount of time in class when we do these kinds of things, these projects. One of the other types of activities that we had the students working on, we learned about el cuerpo, the body, and we learned about things like things that hurt, going to the doctor. Me duele el brazo, me duele la pierna, whatever it might be, la cabeza. So they learn these different body parts, and instead of having them do like a poster or a big life-size poster, and they label those kinds of things, one of my students was telling me about creating roller coasters inside of Minecraft. So I was like, well, why don't you create some body roller coasters, el cuerpo roller coasters, and we could have other students ride on your roller coaster around the different types of body parts. So you can see in these pictures here, we see some different pixel art. So you see a minion with un ojo, and they label all of the different items. And then again, they can do screencasts of those things, of them riding through them. Or I have also myself ridden on their roller coasters, and then they voted on which one was the best roller coaster if they didn't get an opportunity to see that specific one. So they could write on them, check them out, and then listen to the stuff in Espanol and then be able to go through it también. So that was a super easy thing. I didn't actually create any of this stuff. This was just a flat world. They were able to go ahead and create all of those things just within the class periods themselves. A lot of people use Minecraft to be able to create buildings. Very popular thing to do is to replicate your school, la escuela. I liked that idea, but then I was like, well, I want it to be something beyond just creating la escuela and then labeling, for example, the rooms, okay, la clase de arte, la clase de español, or whatever it might be, el gimnasio, those kinds of things. That was fine, but I was like, can we make it much more meaningful than that? And that's when I found out that we could, well, I have here in this slide right here, they worked collaboratively on different sections of the school, and this actually looks like our school, our library, our biblioteca. You can see here it says la clase de arte, and then the teacher's name there, Señorita Elnashar. And then what we figured out is that we could create what are called NPCs, or non-playable characters, basically like little people inside of the Minecraft game. And then I was like, okay, so we need to create NPCs of our staff, of the teachers, of the principal, of the different staff members. And then we need them to be able to interact in Espanol. So you can see over here on the bottom right, it's Señor Thyron. He teaches a clase de química, chemistry. And every time you walk up to Señor Thyron, he has all these different statements that he makes. So the students created the NPC and then created all the dialogue that goes with that specific NPC. In this case, Señor Thyron. We have La Señora Schumacher on the left-hand side. She's a biology teacher, and it greets people, and it says stuff, and as far as in Espanol, things that they would normally have said in class. So really, really cool stuff that you're able to do besides creating buildings or creating things. You can also create the NPCs, the people that actually are inside of these worlds. Cool. Questions before I get to this one? Preguntas? No? Bueno, I'm going to keep going. So what if you didn't want to create anything and you didn't want to have your students use any of class time, because class time is precious, to be able to create anything? And you're probably in that boat and be like, okay, I don't want them to have to spend a bunch of time creating things, even if it's after school or blah, 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 whatever it might be. You can actually, inside of Minecraft, import other people's worlds. And that's a super powerful, fantastic feature that anybody, whether there are Minecraft Education Edition versions of, as far as Minecraft, or just people in the Minecraft community itself that create these things, you can use them for your own purposes. So, for example, there was this amazing, beautiful city with suburbs, and it had probably thousands of houses. And I'm not even exaggerating by that, but it had thousands of different homes, colors, all kinds of different things, swimming pools and kitchens, and everything was created inside of these homes. And it was created for regular Minecraft. Someone out there had created it and then posted it publicly for anybody to be able to download. So then what I did is I just downloaded the world, and then I uploaded the world into my Minecraft EDU world. And then I put my students inside of the world, and I didn't give them the ability to be able to build, which made them very sad. They couldn't build or destroy anything or do anything. They could just walk around, and in this case, I actually gave them flying powers. They could fly around with their group in this giant city. And basically what it was we had, I wanted them, I've been watching a lot of HGTV, so I was like, you know, the real estate agents and what they actually do is an amazing skill. And what if you could do that for somebody in Espanol? Instead of just being able to describe a home, how about you have to describe it for somebody that wants to buy that home? You're selling them the home, right? So I had these clients, I call it demanding real estate clients in Espanol, and they were all over Latin America, but they wouldn't be able to actually go and visit these homes. They gave them a list of demands, and that's what these were right here, of the things that they needed as far as their home, and they got their real estate agent to find them 3 homes, tres casas. And then as a real estate agent, you have to sell them on, oh, you really want this house, and then you give them a walkthrough their house in Espanol. So for example, here we have La Familia Sanchez, and they're from a little town in España called Cuenca, and they want a medium-sized house, and they like the colors red and green, and so they have to go find a red and green house that fits their tastes. They want a minimum of a certain number of rooms, in this case 4 rooms and 2 floors, and then the kids like to swim, so they wanted a swimming pool and so on. So they found 3 homes that fit their tastes, and then they go through, and just like before I was talking about, they can screencast it, or they can make a little iMovie about it, and then they post their videos publicly, and then we either get to watch the videos. I usually post them on Schoology so that they're on the updates. People can watch them if they want. But I think it's just powerful for them to say, hey, look, this is what I created. I not only am able to walk around a world here in Minecraft or lo que sea, but I'm able to describe to a client why they would want to buy this house. So super powerful. It was a great lesson. I didn't actually build anything. All I did is download the world and then upload the world and then give them the instructions. And this lesson is part of the lesson plan packet too. Okay, I have a question here from Luz. What kind of training do you do with students to train them on how to do this? Okay, so I do training. There's a 1-day training. There's a tutorial world inside of Minecraft. And we do a 1 day. By 1 day, I mean 1 class period, a 50-minute training of how to use the controls. Like a lot of students have played Minecraft, but on a console version. So they've never played the PC version, so they have to use their mouse and the keyboard. So the tutorial world walks them through those functions, and then they're able to go ahead and basically do all the rest of the stuff. And any real advanced techniques, they just teach each other, okay? And one of the biggest rules of people ask me all the time, so they could do this, but like, when are they speaking Espanol? Like I said, well, one of our biggest rules, it doesn't matter whether we're in class or we're inside of the computer lab working on Minecraft stuff, we do it all in Espanol. So let's look at this. Are the commands, control, and interface, they are all in Espanol. There's actually, I think, 150 languages that are provided. There's different versions of Espanol, so depending upon the country. Espanol Mexico, Espanol Argentina, so it changes the verbiage just a little bit. But yes, you could play it completely in Espanol, all the direction, all the stuff, everything that you're looking at. And then their communications with each other have to be in Espanol. Now, it's choppy, especially at Espanol Uno, it's like craziness. They really want to be able to speak in English to be able to get their meeting out, but they know that that's our golden rule as far as La Clase de Español. Let me keep going here. So we have these lessons that were, and I have many more that you could go ahead and take a look at inside of those the lesson plans themselves, things that you can easily just have the students create, and then you can interact inside of those worlds. And I call that kind of like gamification worlds. Projects also would fit into those things too. So I was trying to find ways to move beyond that, to say, okay, if we're going to be using this, couldn't we use it to actually learn some Spanish and practice Espanol, and then grow in our Spanish language? And that's the reason why I came up with some of these worlds that you're going to see here. One of the first things that I created, and I actually created this for my final project in Dr. Haskell's class, and I called it El Mundo de Comercio, and it was for level 3 students that are taking a college level course, and Espanol is basically Spanish 102 and 201 at the college level. Here I'm connected through the Minnesota State University. So they get college credit for that, and they're taking my class. And we have this book, like all of us have books. In this case, I have mandated curriculum from the university, and this book called Gente Nivel Básico. And it was capítulo 13 or something like that, and it was about gente y comercio, people and commerce. And it was all of these different things, phrases and vocabulary related about buying and selling things, and all of the other things that are related to commerce. So I was like, okay, this is our chance, our opportunity. I'm going to have students create a business inside of Minecraft, okay? But they can only communicate in Espanol, and they have to buy, sell, and trade their items in order to make more money inside of the game, of course, see? And in order to win the competition, the game. So I had my students divide themselves into different careers. So some of them were lumberjacks and miners. There was farmers, granjeros. There was even some that wanted to just be soldiers and protect the community. And we monetized each one of those careers in different ways. The lumberjacks collecting a certain amount of wood, they could go and sell it at a store, and I called it la tienda de Señor Irvin or something like that, el mercado. And in el mercado, if they came to me for trades or to be able to exchange their items for dinero, then I basically ripped them off. I gave them I bought things for horrible prices. I sold them for horrible prices because I wanted them to not come to me, but rather have to talk to each other and trade items in order to be able to make the most money. So they needed each other, and they all were having to communicate again in Espanol. We learned, I gave them a framework as far as words and phrases to be able to work with. Scaffolding activity, that's the best way to be able to describe it. So scaffolding, paper, papel, that they could use to be able to talk to each other. But that quickly became, we quickly had to add more and more to that in order for it to work for us. So the competition was earn the most money, and you couldn't communicate in English at all. So during the 50 minutes of class, it was like, I tell people it's like chaos, because you have these kids and it's kind of like the stock market. It's kind of what it felt like at times, where they were buying and selling things. So they were like, yo quiero 64 maderas, dame uno por 3 oros, I want 64 pieces of wood for 3 pieces of gold, or whatever it was that they were actually trading. So we built a system of commerce where you could trade in items, and then they could actually exchange items with each other. But basically, in the end, you're trying to make the most money. That's what I was just telling them. And then, of course, our grade for the class was associated with just the communication. I told them, if you don't make that much dinero, who cares? I'm like, the most important part is that you guys are communicating in Espanol, and the whole time, never speaking in English, staying in the language, and then you ask me any questions outside of class so that we could continue to build our vocab. Okay, so we have so many questions. Are the students doing this communication in writing or oral? All of it, actually, if you can believe this. Okay, so our setup is unique, and maybe it's going to be the same for you guys. But basically, we went to a computer lab, and it was in our media center. Very rarely used, the media center computer lab, because we're one-to-one devices. So we all got there, and then that is where we hosted our Minecraft class, and this communication is going on verbally. So that's why I was saying, like, it sounds like the stock market because people are yelling out at each other, and sometimes it gets a little crazy and loud, and other people are aggravated, by those things. But for me, I love to see people being passionate and that they're speaking in Espanol and they're staying in the language, and they're trying to get their needs met. In this case, try to buy and sell items or sell things to other people, whatever it might be. And so it's fantastic. Let me read some more questions here. Are the students doing it? So almost, you could do writing activities, don't get me wrong, but this was specifically so that we could practice interpersonal communication. Really, it's not presentational, formal presentational speaking, but it's interpersonal communication. So did everyone's job show up in one micro? Yeah, so we all worked inside of the same world. First, I had them build, like you can see this in this picture, you can kind of see it in the background. It says Tres Chicas, La Tienda de Madera. So these girls, these 3 girls, were working as a team, and they were the lumberjacks. And all they did is they got wood inside of Minecraft, which is one of the things you can go ahead and do, and then they sold that wood to the other groups. Now, the other groups couldn't, in Minecraft, you probably need a backdrop for this. In order to make tools, you need wood, and you also probably need an ore, okay, just like you would maybe in real life. like iron or rocks or whatever it might be. So they basically depended on each other. They needed each other to survive because this was a survival world. So they needed each other. One group needed the wood to be able to make tools, but then the miners, the miners needed the wood, but both of those groups needed the farmers and the granjeros to be able to go out and eat because they had the food, they had the farm and the farm animals and the ranch and whatever it might be. So they were they had to be interconnected. They had to depend on each other in order to survive. It says, do you teach at a gifted, advanced, or STEM magnet school? Not at all. This is a little rural town. The one thing that I did have as far as an advantage, and I will be honest about that, is that number one, my administration supported me right from the beginning, so that was a fantastic thing. I have a slide about that. It's about presenting it to your administration. I gave them the ideas about what I was going to do. I also told my parents up front what I was doing and why I was doing it. And I'm the only language teacher in the school. So that also makes a difference because there's nobody else to, no one. It's a good and a bad thing because I could do this without it ruffling feathers, for example. Say, ¿qué más? Did you find that the students did not have access to technology at home? How'd you handle that? So in this case, we did everything at school. So this specific, all these activities actually are done at school. Nothing is done at home. You could have students do stuff at their homes because the newer versions, like I told you, if they buy their own license, they could use it at their house. But I didn't feel a need for that. And so I had them work during class. And then we have some other times during the day, a study hall hour. And we also have like after school times and those kinds of things too. Oh, how do you make sure students respect others' works and do not destroy them? That's a fantastic question from Teresa. I'm going to get to that in just a bit, Teresa, if you don't mind. I have a slide about that too, when I give advice on how to get started. So my Mundo de Comercio went so well that I was like, okay, I'm inspired. I really want to I want to create a world that the students can play in for multiple days, not just like 1 hour, but like weeks at a time. And they're speaking in Espanol and they are learning, okay, basically in Espanol. Can we actually have that happen? Could we have that happen? And so I created something called El Mundo de Leyendas, or the World of Legends. Sorry about my slides. They look all messed up because I imported them here. But basically, by we, I mean me and a group of about 5 students, two girls and 3 boys. We created a world for the other students where it was a role-playing game world. And it was called an MMORPG, basically a massively multiplayer role-playing game world, where they were all the scenario was we're all part of a new civilization, and then everybody in the civilization speaks Spanish. All the characters inside of the civilization speak Spanish. All of us speak Spanish, and we have different things each week, and I called them, I think I have them right here. Basically, I had different quests each week that we had to all work together, collaborative tasks. I think I have right here. Here we go, global tasks. That we needed to go ahead and work on something. It was something at the beginning where we had to create a community, and eventually there was something that we needed to defeat and work together to be able to do something. All around specific vocab. So circling specific vocabulary, specific phrases that we then used on a consistent basis to be able to accomplish our global task. So I'll go back here. So how was I grading them? Some people ask me sometimes. I had basically a very detailed rubric, and that was mostly for my administration, to be able to say, okay, here's what we're doing, here's how I'm going to evaluate whether or not they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we had these global tasks. For example, the first one here, it says, I'll translate it for you in English, it says we need to build our community from birch trees, birch wood. And every person needs to create their own house, and this is how you create it. You need a certain number of windows, and then each week we had all these different tasks to go ahead and work within the community, and this was one of the tasks within the thing. And then it asked them different questions where they would need to go and communicate with a specific group or specific people in the class, asking and answering different questions within that same world, basically, like pretending we're in the same world. Did you give the students the rubric beforehand? Absolutely. Yep, they knew beforehand what they were getting into. And I gave the students a choice. I gave them a choice between working in this world, the Minecraft world, and working just on the traditional assignment. So I had students doing both. The way I was able to do that is I house all my assignments within the Schoology platform. So I had both things going on at the same time, and with that, I was able to basically evaluate, does this even work? So I was going through and running basically an experiment on my students, having some of them, they were still working on the traditional assignments, they didn't want to have anything to do with this, and then the students that wanted to go ahead and work within the Minecraft world. And it was actually, to be honest, more work to do the Minecraft assignments because every 50-minute period, we worked on the collaborative global tasks, but they couldn't actually do any of the paper and pencil things in class. So they had to do all those paper and pencil things outside of class. So basically they played the game in class and they had homework outside of class. Most of my students, I usually don't have a bunch of homework, those kinds of things. They did their stuff in class and they didn't have any homework. So I did have probably a 60-40 split, 60% students working on Minecraft stuff and then about 40% students working on the traditional assignments. Which was totally awesome. Great way to be able to go ahead and determine that. I actually have more evidence than this too. I should have updated this slide because I have some really fantastic things, and I'll share those with you in just a bit too. But basically, I compared the traditional teaching versus Mundo de Leyendas over a period of time. So this period of time was a quarter. So for us, it's a 9-week period. It really was more like 7 weeks instead of 9 weeks, and number one, with my Mundo de Leyendas students, they turned in all of the assignments. So they submitted and were heavily engaged in the role play of the activity that they just did everything. I've done this exact same activity now. This would have been my 4th year doing it. So I've done it over 3 years. And this is always the case. Students are passionate about it and they submit they do their stuff. And they don't think of it as work. They think of it as this is part of playing the game. I have a really good, just my traditional students turn in about 70% of their assignments, just over 70% of their assignments, which is still fantastic, but 100% versus 70%, that's a big discrepancy there. I talk here about students creating in the language organically. One of the things that you guys probably are passionate about too is that you want your students to go off script. You don't want them to just have memorized statements. You want them to be able to combine and recombine and want to be passionate about learning the way to say this or learning how to say this other thing that hasn't been taught in class, adding their own phrases and vocab that's in the second language. That's what happens as far as when you start doing things like this and I called it basically creating the language organically. They really were passionate about learning more because they wanted to be able to tell each other things that were happening in the game while they were playing as far as in the game. And so we did have a combined shared vocabulario, a vocab kind of phrasing thing that when we learned something new, we added it to our lists that we were creating. I never focused on those things, but I said, here's some things that people are working through, and then you could have them there sitting in front of you. Can you share a copy of your rubric with us? Yes, the rubric is actually inside of, I'm almost positive, it's inside of the thing where all the lesson plans are. And I'll share that in just a bit. It has all of my lesson plans and it has that specific rubric there, which you can manipulate and change however you want to go ahead and do it too. Do they have specific sites beforehand to know where to find it? Yes, there's specific sites too, but sometimes they just raise their hand and go, Señor Irvin, quiero saber cómo se dice blah, blah, blah. I want to know how to say this specific thing, whatever it might be in English. They might say it in English, like, I want to be able to use the preterite or some kind of future tense or something, a specific phrase that I continue. It's like, I just want to be able to say, chop that wood and bring it over here, bring it over here. ¿Cómo se dice eso? Yeah. Tráelo para acá, whatever it might be, okay? So they do have some things that they're like, oh, I use this all the time, I need it right now. So that was very helpful as far as within the game, they were passionate about it. The other things that aren't on this slide, is I do basically test outs at the ends of, I do it at specific unit, at interval levels, to be able to figure out where students are as far as on our actual grid. You know, are they at novice, mid, novice, high, novice, low, whatever it might be, intermediate or whatever it might be. And these students were outperforming their peers, especially in the interpersonal communication. So interpersonally, like being able to speak and speak spontaneously. This actually happened, and I had no idea it was going to happen, but it was happening, and it continues to happen each time that we go ahead and use this. Inside of the presentation itself, I have a link to one of my students who was one of the students who helped me build this world. His name is Connor Kropp, fantastic student. He's now in college. He was actually one of my test students a long time ago when he was in my class, 3-4 years ago. He was one of the first students to actually use the Minecraft when he was in Espanol, and he has there's a link to his message on YouTube about why does he think that Minecraft is important. One of the things that Connor said, and he actually said it to, there was a critic who was trolling us on Twitter about using Minecraft, and he said, so what's the big deal? Couldn't you do something else besides using Minecraft? And Connor had a great statement. I didn't coach him on this, I promise. And he just told the man that it's the closest he could think of to being immersed in a country. Like, in other words, in the culture, having to speak the language, but we were immersing ourselves within this game-based world. And it was a fantastic observation by him. He's actually traveled to the Dominican and several other places to be able to do service trips. And he was like, this is kind of like when I was in the Dominican, when I couldn't speak English, I had to use the Spanish language. And that was a great observation by Connor. There's going to be the link there for you guys too. I'll make sure I provide this presentation here for you guys. Other things that I've actually done as far as for my Spanish classrooms, and I'll just kind of go through these, and then please feel free to go and stop me and ask any questions. I'm just going to have like little tidbits here. There was, this looks horrible, La Resistencia was basically an alternate reality game. High-level students by Español 3 estudiantes, and they basically were in a 4-week unit where they were battling an invasion by an alien species, and they had to only communicate in the Spanish language because the aliens didn't understand Espanol. And it was fantastic. It went awesome. I have several videos about it that are inside of my playlist as far as on YouTube. I do all kinds of things. Minecraft is fantastic for building, but it's also so awesome for farming type of things. So in this scenario, they were farming, trading, buying and upgrading gear, which is an important thing for them, and then battling the bad guys, which I made sure that to have that element as far as in the game, because that makes it more game-like, and then all while communicating in Espanol. So this was kind of all the students versus the bad guys. They all work together and then upgrade their gear, and are able to go ahead and fight the bad guys there, which are bad guys that I created as far as within the game. Casas Grandes, this is another lesson and unit that you'll find in there. So they read or they listen to descriptions of homes. So someone tells them, hey, quiero que construyas una casa. They want them to build a house. And they have a specific parameters. These are the things that I want in la casa. They listen to the thing, they work together in that group, and then they present the final built house to their client. So it's kind of like the real estate thing, but in this case, they were actually able to construct the things. And then I had the entire world built there. As far as inside of Minecraft, most of the stuff was students helped me to create these types of things. But they built the homes, they earned money, and they were able to upgrade their tools. So it was very, very game-like there too. My next slide is about where and how do I start, or what type of technology do I need. So I don't know why it has Chromebooks there, because Chromebooks don't work. I don't think, maybe Pocket Edition does work on Chromebooks, but I'm almost positive that it does not. So it says, what type of technology do you have available? If you have iPads, for example, you can use Minecraft Pocket Edition. It works fantastic. Especially for younger students, it is perfect. Their hands are great for these things. If you have Windows 10 or the latest version of Mac, then you can use Minecraft Education Edition. But there is just regular, what's called vanilla Minecraft, and you can use it on almost any computers, but not Chromebooks. And that's just like the generic version of Minecraft. The costs of these, the Pocket Edition is like $5 per machine. The Windows 10 version, like I told you before, the Minecraft Education Edition is $5 per year. So that's unfortunate, that's per year, it's a recurring cost. The vanilla Minecraft is, I think you buy it one time and it's about $25, $27. And you buy it one time, you can host it on a computer. The only bad part about the vanilla Minecraft version is that you need to have some experience on how to run servers. Because the education versions, they do the server part for you ahead of time. So you don't have to actually create a server, know how to do any of that kind of stuff. You just press a button and it just does it. It just works. Any questions on that? On where and how do I actually start? Are the worlds large enough that when one class leaves something created, are you able to regulate so the next class doesn't undo what the others have done? Fantastic question. So in the educational version of Minecraft, you can make borders. Okay, you can actually make these borders, and you can border a area that a specific class or group are working on. So for example, you have group 1 and they're working on a specific city or whatever it might be. You don't want them nobody to be able to go in there and mess anything up, blah blah blah. You can make a border around them and then basically transport them into that area, and everybody else can't go into that area. You can do the exact same thing for classes. I do that often. I usually separate people into groups for that exact same purpose. And it's super easy. You make a little border around, you basically draw a line around it, and it's done. And it says, can you assign specific places? Yes. You can transport everybody in the class to a specific location, because the worlds are basically infinite, especially the new worlds. They are totally infinite. You can go in one direction infinitely. That's the education version now. So you can make it really, like they don't even know that there's anybody else on this planet, and then hold them in there with a border so that they have like limitations as far as where they actually go. Super easy to do, by the way. I mean, it's like clicking a button and you place your border there. I see some other people are asking questions. I'm going to talk about the slide. Basically, like I told you before, the reason why this has worked out so well for me is ahead of time, I talked to my administration, my tech committee, my fellow teachers, and my parents, and then just the community. So I really put it out there that I was doing this. I actually host younger kids, and I do an after-school kind of club that's a Minecraft club, and so that gets them passionate and wanting to go ahead and be in my classes and then be able to use this too. You have students working in groups. How do you assign the groups and hold the students accountable for the same material? Just like how you would do any, I would say it's not anything different than you would do the, for example, in class. So you do peer evaluations so that their peers can evaluate how much a certain student is putting in as far as their work or whether or not they're helping. And I'm actually in the world too. So just to make sure you know, I'm zooming around the world, my little avatar, and I can put myself in basically invisible mode and I can go around and just watch them. And then I can also freeze students when they're being inappropriate or they need to be, or I can freeze all of the students so they can just frozen in place, and then they all look at me like in desperation. They're like, unfreeze us. And then I can communicate with them and tell them exactly what message I need to get to them. Let's say they're speaking in English. They're speaking in English and I need to get my point across. I freeze them and then I say, hey, vamos a hablar en español. ¿Se acuerdan? And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, boom, and get back to the task. Because that's often. The education version is super easy. It's the press of a button. You can freeze a specific student. You can also freeze the whole class. Okay, very easy to go ahead and do. And teleport students, basically move students anywhere you want. So you can move them to you or wherever it might be to be able to do that. Is that a feature exclusive to Minecraft EDU? Yes. No, I don't want to say that. The freezing and the teleporting, I think you can do it in the vanilla version, but it's more complex. In the education version, honestly, there's an interface for a teacher, and you press a button and it freezes students. Like their name is on there, boom, you freeze them, and it's super easy to transport them to. So just so you have an idea, yes. Cool, I'll keep going. One of the things that I realized right away, and this was a thing from Dr. Haskell, is it's important to understand that the students are experts in the game. So many of your students will come in with lots of knowledge. They already know how to create things. They know the ins and outs of the game itself, the secrets, the coding, to be able to go ahead and do those types of things. And it's great to go ahead and lean on them, to go ahead and have them give you that advice, to be able to say, hey, how do you do this? I ask my 10-year-old a lot of these questions, to be honest. I say, can I make a command block that delivers this specific thing? He's like, yes, this is how you do it. And they learn it because they watch videos and they're super passionate about the game itself. Do you have instructions sheet on how to set the classes, set the borders, assign the tasks in the game, free students, teleport students, etc.? Diana, all of those are basic tutorial world functions for a teacher. So if you ever got the game and you got it, see, then the first thing you could do as a teacher is go into the tutorial world yourself, and you would learn how to do all of these things. And I honestly, for a teacher, it probably would be a couple of hours, this tutorial world. You'd walk through it and it would teach you all the different functions, border blocks, teleporting students, all of those kinds of things. So there is a world inside of Minecraft to be able to learn how to do these things. And they do it especially because they know that teachers want to learn how to do this. The students kind of need a tutorial world, but I'm telling you right now, when they grasp the controls, they've got it. They just experiment and they go in and learn very quickly. That was a very good question. I can get you a link, by the way, to a printout of those things, because I know teachers like the actual printout. But there is a world that's created that's one of the, when you enter in Minecraft Education Edition, one of the first worlds, it says up there, enter tutorial world, and then you can learn all of these functionality in there. Here's one of the great questions somebody just asked earlier. How do you make sure kids don't go around and just destroy each other's stuff? Well, that's the first thing you actually talk about. These are a couple of different things from primary schools that I've taken off the internet. We create, my 5th hour Spanish 1 rules are going to be different than my 6th hour Spanish rule, because we talk about what should we be able to do, what shouldn't we be able to do, because they understand the game. They understand that lava will burn down buildings, that there's TNT where you can blow up things. So they'll tell you that we shouldn't have TNT. If someone puts water on our area, there should be a consequence for that, and so on and so forth. You can talk through those things. And sometimes you have to freeze the class and say, hey, we're getting off task here, something is happening here, let's talk about it, let's get back on task. Total digital citizenship with these things. Okay, is there a website or are tutorials on YouTube? There is a website, and I think it's just minecraftedu.com. I'm just taking a guess. Minecraft Education Edition, you do a Google search for that, that's their website. That's where you can buy the stuff. There are lesson plans there for all content areas. There are any types of tutorials for teachers that you can go ahead and get there. And there's all of the descriptions that you need to be able to get the ins and outs for software and those kinds of things. How do your students learn the vocab? Well, we don't ever just start in Minecraft. And that's what a lot of people have the misconception. I have a regular classroom. I use, you guys are probably familiar with TPR and TPRS. We do circling as far as in class. We do lots of the different activities that you probably do. We do cultural activities as far as in class. Some of the things that we do here are just like a one-day kind of thing that we're going to be working on. And then there was those times where those specific classes I was talking about as far as learning the vocab, we do it very, I wouldn't say thematically based, but it's kind of that. We do it with specific outcomes in mind. You know, so I have these specific questions and different types of responses to those questions, and then I embed it within the game itself. And you can see that those things, you can get a vision of those types of things if you take a look at the lesson plans. I'll keep going here. Of course, communicate with your administration, your parents, your community. That's super important. And I would highly recommend becoming a part or just peeking into the Minecraft EDU community. If you search this hashtag, the hashtag Minecraft EDU, there is a thread of all of these different types of teachers who are sharing ideas, asking questions, even when it comes to like tech stuff, like you can't make something work, to something where you want to collaborate with somebody, or you're sharing your plan with somebody, or you're sharing your videos like I do. And there's a chat every Tuesday night, I think it says, yep, Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, that I would highly recommend. Just drop in and just kind of check out what the conversation for the week. There's all the different types of topics that they go ahead and share there. That's actually where I started learning tons of different things that other people were doing in their specific communities. This one's kind of hard to see, so I'll just kind of start posting some different things. My Twitter hashtag is @IrvSpanish. I also have an email. It's just my name, glenirvin@gmail. I have a link. Let me start dropping some of my links here. Actually, maybe I'll just copy all these. I'm going to drop all of these links here. Let's see if it works. No, that didn't look good. I'll do them one at a time. Here's the first one is the actual YouTube playlist. I have a lot of things on my channel, on my YouTube channel. So this is the specific Minecraft playlist. Oh, I should give you I don't know why I didn't think of this. I'll give you a link to my website here that you're more than welcome to take a look at. This is my website, Game-Based Spanish. There's lessons in there about Minecraft, but I share all kinds of other things. Drop my phone there. I share all kinds of other things, projects that I've created, things about Schoology, because I'm into Schoology ambassador. CCPS2 says, hey Glenn. Hi. Folks don't have access to the chat to oh, okay. Do you want me to? I could put this on Twitter right now if you want me to. Oh, can you paste it? Can you paste in the doc? Yeah, maybe. Can I add something to this doc? I don't think I can, because I don't think it's a live document. This is a PowerPoint. So a couple different things you can do, or I could do. I can post all of these things, and I'll go onto my Twitter and then just post these links there for you. You can reach out to me by email. I know that's kind of annoyance. We created a doc here. Oh, cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Can I have the link to the doc? And then I'll post it in there. Yeah. Nice. I'll put them all in there. Super easy, everybody. Oh, okay, perfect. So I'm going to post these at the top, if that sounds good to you. Okay, I'm going to, let's see. Do I have editing rights here? Yeah, I do. Okay, I'll just post it right at the top. And I have all of those web links there. And boom, I'll throw them in there. I'll separate them a little bit. And then I'll also put my Game-Based Spanish website también up at the top there. And of course, I mean, the biggest thing is when you get blasted with so much stuff, like you guys just did, you may have a question later on. Feel free anytime. Send me a direct message on Twitter, or just @IrvSpanish me and just ask me a question, or send me an email. We'll definitely communicate via email. I've had Skype calls with different teachers, Google Hangouts, depending upon what they actually needed, help you walk through the process. I do go to several conferences and do sessions just on learning how to use Minecraft Education Edition. I do sessions on this as far as how to use Minecraft as far as your second language classroom. I think I'm going to do one actually in April on the East Coast. And I also do stuff on gamification, on basically how do you use game-based or game elements in your classroom and make it so your class is much more exciting, okay, as far as that goes. Are you going to act? Well, it's a good question. Not at the moment. I want to, but I'm not going to be there. I will probably be at several other conferences. I should go. I don't know why I haven't made it a priority. I need to make it a priority. Where is it this year? Someone just throw down there where it actually is. I can't think of where it's actually even at. Someone's typing. So anyway, you can reach me at any of those forums. I'm super happy. Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, I love Nashville. Great place. I would love for you to share any other resources on gamification. Fantastic. Okay. How about in I go through and give you contacts. There's a certain group of people who, if you have questions that are beyond me, or you just want to reach out to other people that are talking about gamification or game-based learning, I have some people that you should definitely get in contact with that are just, they're the super most awesome people. They spend their own time to be able to help you out. And they're super happy to do so. So I'll put those in that same document if you guys don't mind. I'll put contact information. I'll put any kind of things on gamification itself that you could have, those types of things, and specifically about game-based learning, so you can kind of have the differences between those two things, get a clear idea about what those are. That'd be fantastic. Really appreciate that. Cool, Heidi, no problem. I'll put it in that specific document. I'll make sure I do that, and I'll do that today, okay? So that you guys have access to that. Any other things that you guys have questions about? I think that was the end of my presentation. You know, that was it. I was going to share one of my worlds here because I have some worlds here, but when I did a share screen, I made the screen, my screen just melted down and just freezes. So as I was doing the test runs, it wouldn't share my screen without basically freezing up the screen and crashing. But if you ever want to see my worlds, like, hey, give me a walkthrough, whatever it might be, I do have some videos like that, I think, on YouTube, though they might be a little bit boring. But if you ever want to do a Google Hangout, I'll do a screen share and I'll walk you through some other things so you have an idea. Some people have even asked me for the specific worlds that we've created, and I've shared those also. I'm not sure how it'll work with the newest edition as far as the worlds that I would be sharing, but we can figure it out, the technical stuff. Other questions? I don't know if I was supposed to go for 2 hours, but I saw that time there and I was like, oh God, yes. University of Virginia's typing. So we got to, here we go. How do you handle things like learning about different cultures and the history of the countries? I still teach a lot of that in the same ways that you probably go ahead and do that through authentic resources at their level, whether it be like novice level or intermediate level. So we still do readings, we still do those kinds of things. So you could do some stuff like that inside of Minecraft. It would be hard, some of those things, to be able to stay in the language. So if you were teaching about whatever it might be, to be able to go ahead and stay within the language, and that's an important part. You have a limited amount of time to be able to do that. So I still have a very traditional, I don't want to call it traditional, I've got to call it new age, awesome classroom, but there's still a lot of this face-to-face interaction. I mean, I'll show you my classroom here. This is just a typical clase de español. There's my ceiling tiles on one of my ceiling projects, or my artist project, sorry. And then my clase de español is just like a normal class. You have groups there. You have some Dia de los Muertos and papel picado, whatever it might be. So I don't want you to think that I'm super, everything's tech or everything's on Minecraft. It's still, and that way we still do a lot of the same things that you would do. Música, music, whatever it might be, all the stuff, food, all those kinds of things. How often do your classes meet? I have a high school classes. I meet with them every single day, 50 minutes classes, so they're fast. I'd love to have more time with them. So 50-minute classes, meet every single day. Created a bit.ly to that doc for your convenience. Oh, thank you. I'll go ahead and, yeah, fantastic. Boom. Perfecto. Gets me right to that one. See other questions here. How much time in the 50 minutes is dedicated? Good question. It doesn't really work in the way of, like, we have, tiempo for música, we do our interactive, activities, blah, 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 and there's a Minecraft time. Usually we do a Minecraft activity at the end of a specific unit. So we have this vocab, we're using it, we're passionate about it, we have a good grasp of it. Now we're going to use it within this game. And that's how I normally would use it. the thing that I showed you as far as Mundo de Leyendas, it's at the end of Español 2, my Spanish 2 class, the last quarter, basically, of the class, they have the option that instead of doing our traditional assignments. Which, by the way, the traditional assignments and these assignments, they have the exact same outcomes. So we're still talking about, you're still doing reading, you're still doing writing, you're still doing speaking of specific outcomes. Can-do goals, I have them specifically on there. It's just that there's a traditional way of having done it. Now I embedded it within the Minecraft game and the activities that we're doing there. So hopefully that answers your question. So it depends on what we're actually doing. That one thing was something special as far as the Mundo de Leyendas. Usually it's not like that. It's not like we come to class as Minecraft Spanish. It's not like that, see? But we use it for different activities, like you would do with anything else. Perfecto. Any other preguntas, questions? If you think of something at the end or you want to connect, let me know. Okay, I'm more than happy. I'll let people type though here. See if there's anything that comes up. Thank you. You're welcome. It's always awesome to talk to people. It's really weird because I don't see you guys. So I just see my own face here, so it's like really awkward. So hopefully that was okay for you guys. That's awesome. Gracias, gracias. Gracias a ustedes también. Perfecto. If you come up with any other questions or anything else, let me know. This was great. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. I'll be connecting with you. Absolutely. Connect with me on Twitter. I will follow you right back. Love to have a diverse community. And if you have questions about stuff, remember everything that I did, I just wrote it down. So it's not perfect. It just was there to be able to give other people ideas on how to get started or just things you could do or you could change and then make it fit in your classrooms. Gracias. From Luz, muchos saludos. Paisana del Paso. Don't forget to send your attendance. Yep, we can make perfect. It was so awesome meeting you guys. Connect with me on Twitter. Adios. Hasta luego. I'm going to click off of here. Hopefully that's okay.